Okay, another seminar, thesis seminar, EE590, by Melis Çıkış, and her presentation is representing earthquake accelerogram records for CNN utilization. Okay, Melis, we are listening to you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to my presentation. My project is representing earthquake accelerogram records for CNN utilization. In this presentation, my aim is to share with you what I have done about my thesis, even though it has not been completed yet, performing a demo of my thesis. In summary, in this study, firstly, a dataset was created and using this dataset clustering of earthquake epicenter has been realized. Spectrogram-based pseudo-analysis of the earthquake signal by selecting appropriate data from this cluster, color representation has been realized. Subsequently, these spectrograms are used in convolutional neural networks. I would like to make an introduction by talking about the epicenter and accelerometer. Earthquake records from past earthquakes, such as the epicenter of earthquakes, contains information. These records make important contributions to the earthquake hazard of the site. Earthquakes occur when faults rupture, and the point where the fault first ruptures is called focus. Its focus point is below the Earth's surface, and its projection on the Earth's surface is called the epicenter of the earthquake. Strong ground motions caused by earthquakes are measured by three perpendicular accelerometers on accelerographs located at a station. These data, which are recorded in different channels from the beginning to the end of the earthquake, are stored as earthquake accelerometer records. Now, I will talk about where I collected the data for this problem. AFAD, since 1990, keeping a record of the earthquake that took place in Turkey and share with them on the website. I also download the earthquake. It took place from 1990 to 2090 from sites. Earthquake records contain very valuable parameters such as the earthquake's peak ground motions at the record location, frequency content, and duration of motion. In this study, belonging to recorded in different years earthquake events in Turkey, sample earthquake records shown in the slide, accelerometer records that the clusters according to the epicenter, spectrogram-based three-channel turning into false color images. We have made appropriate use of human analysis and convolution networks. Now, I will look at whether these data can provide a solution to my problem and if there's a relationship between them. I did this with the most popular clustering algorithm, K-means clustering. Clustering is algorithm that automatically break data into smaller clusters or subsets. The algorithm puts statistically similar records into the same group. An element is only allowed to belong to one set. Cluster center is the value that represents the cluster. The letter K in the name of the algorithm indicates the number of clusters. The two most important goals here are the values and the values in the cluster should be most similar to each other, and clusters should not be as similar to each other as possible. In order to realize these requests, the following steps should be performed on the algorithm side. Step 1, initialize cluster centers. Step 2, assign observation to the closest cluster center. Step 3, revise cluster centers as mean of assigned observation. Step 4, repeat steps 2 and 3 algorithmically until desired. Firstly, earthquakes close to each other in the epicenter cluster. While clustering, the K-means method has been used. The purpose of the aggregation is to observe that earthquakes similar to epicenters generate similar signals and enable this demonstration to estimate the epicenter from a single station with convolutional networks. For the purpose of clustering, the geographic location of the epicenters of the earthquakes that took place between 2015 and 2018 were fed to the K-means algorithm, and these earthquakes were divided into 10 different sets. Accelerometer records are a multidimensional time series signal. Our aim in this study is to transfer the 3-channel accelerometer data to a 2-dimensional time frequency representation and visualize this representation. In other words, accelerometer data have been turned into spectrograms. In the analysis we made on the data when the duration of the earthquakes that took place between 2015 and 2018 was examined. It was observed that they were distributed in a wide range from 5 seconds to 300 seconds. In the study, while the earthquake signal is converted into a spectrogram, each earthquake signal is divided into 5 seconds. Thus, each spectrogram is 5 seconds, but each earthquake consists of a different number of 5-second spectrograms according to the length of its accelerometer data. While doing this, short time Fourier transform is used. While applying the short time Fourier transform, 1 second window size and 50% overlap values were used as parameters. This method applies the Fourier transform separately by dividing each earthquake into parts of equal length. Since the sampling interval after 2015 is 0.01 seconds, 1 second windows carry 100 samples. Therefore, the highest frequency value spectrograms can sample corresponds to a vibration of 50 Hz. Sample accelerometer records are shown. In each record, the size of the 3-channel accelerometer data sampled varies depending on the duration between the beginning and ending moments of the earthquake event. The 2-dimensional 3-spectrogram channel to be created is placed in 3-channel of an RGB picture. Records from different earthquakes have different durations. An earthquake signal representation is given in the figure. Firstly, for this earthquake event, separate spectrograms of the recordings taken from 3 vertically positioned accelerometers were created by using the parameters mentioned above, and the representation in the figure was obtained. Since the earthquake event in the figure longer than 30 seconds, there are 6 pieces of 5 seconds. When these parts are combined, the signal representation of the whole earthquake is obtained. The illustration provides convenience for a human examination and shows very valuable hints. For example, in the first second of the earthquake, there is a movement between 10 and 20 hertz, perpendicular to the ground surface. I am talking about the blue channel. Later, the earthquake intensified in all directions. The inputs of our initially consist of 3-channel accelerometer records. It was advanced by taking the maximum energy of these accelerometer records. Another input is the station location and altitude. Since the station location has much more understandable meanings, it is included in our network after high-level features have been created. Our aim is to calculate the earthquake epicenter and the depth of the earthquake by using spectrograms created from 3-channel accelerometer data and the higher level station location and altitude. Experiments have been conducted on the network scene. Two different inputs to this network structure are fed from 2 different layers. In the first layer, spectrogram data with the highest energy of any earthquake is fed. Then come the convolutional blocks consisting of the convolutional layer, activation layer, and sampling layer. All nodes are connected to each other with fully connected layers by feeding the station location and station altitude to the high-level attributes formed from there. As output, the epicenter location of the earthquake event and the earthquake depth were learned with a regression layer. While conducting these experiments, we divided our dataset using the cross-validation method. Cross-validation is a model validation technique that tests how the analysis performed in an independent dataset will do. Our dataset is randomly divided into groups as a training set, validation set, and test set. The training set is the data that the model is trained on, while the test set is the data used to see how well the model performs on untrained data. In the experiments, separate networks were trained for each different k-means set of 2015, and in preliminary experiments, randomly selected 1,000 earthquake events from each sand were used. 70% of the dataset subgroup selected in each experiment was separated for training, 15% for hyperparameter optimization, and 15% for testing. As a result of the cross-validation experiments, it was seen that the epicenter location can be calculated with an error of approximately 18 kilometers and the depth with an error of approximately 800 meters. In the figure, false color spectrogram displays of 3 different earthquakes with very close epicenters recorded at different times. In these examples, it is observed that all 3 representations are concentrated at the same points and the colors are common. The only feature that is the same in these 3 earthquake records are the epicenter location. In the study, A spectrogram-based false color representation of earthquake accelerometer records was designed to facilitate human examination as well as to process earthquake signals in convolutional networks. It has been observed that the accelerometer data of the earthquake events occurring in the epicenters close to each other create similar two-dimensional false color pictures in this demonstration. This is a hint that this relationship can be learned if the earthquake events in the same end feed into the convolutional network. In our study, preliminary experiments have been carried out on a system that can calculate the epicenter of an earthquake using single station data, using convolutional neural networks. And the results that correct our hypothesis are observed. Thus, the relationship between the earthquake signal and the epicenter location has been clearly observed. In the continuation of our study, we plan to conduct experiment with spectrograms consisting of P and S wave phases of the earthquake instead of spectrograms with maximum energy in order to better understand and define the earthquake signal. These experiments have already begun. In addition, we continue to work on architectures that work with the global earthquake events instead of fixed spectrograms using recurrent neural networks. Thank you for listening.
Okay, Melis, thank you very much. Very good presentation. Does anybody have any questions?
Thanks, Melis. Nice presentation.
Okay. Sally, would you ask first, or shall I ask first?
I think you should. I think you should go first. I'm going to ask a few maybe earthquake-related questions just to make sure she understands, you know, the other side of things. But I guess, I mean, you can go ahead.
Very good idea. Well, Melis, then can you explain to us how will the experiments will change? How will the experiments change when you carry the experimentation to recurrent neural network stage? Can you explain it to us on the architecture? Maybe you could come to the architectural slides and you could explain to us, because you said in the CNN domain, we were feeding fixed sized inputs, but with RNN. So can you speculate? I mean, maybe you don't have exactly, you don't have the exact idea how to do it, but maybe you can speculate, we could speculate together. How would you do it?
Wait a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Ne yapacağım? I fed them the output of the networks. The network's output is epicenter location.
Okay.
And depth.
Okay, would you feed the epicentral location to the recurrent neural network?
No.
Okay, so where would you feed exactly? Okay, where would you feed?
Again, accelerometer data.
Would you feed the accelerometer data directly to the recurrent neural network?
No.
No, then, because it is not yet, it's not the beginning, so it must be something in between, most probably. So where? Where would you choose and why? Do you may have an idea now, but maybe you don't.
Yes.
Maybe you do.
I fed them. I fed.
Okay, let me ask you another question to make this easier for you. So what is this part for? The first part before the red rectangle. What is that part for? The part before the red rectangle. The before the concatenation layer, the red one. Before that.
Yes.
That whole part, what is it for?
What is it for?
I mean, what is it called usually in convolutional neural networks? Do you remember?
No, I don't understand.
Well,
Dropout layer?
No, I mean the entire part before the
Yes.
from the input to the red concatenation layer.
Yes.
That entire part is given a name. What was that name? An encoder, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what is the encoder for?
What is the encoder for? Encoder is encode.
Okay, let me help you then. It encodes the signal to high-level features, right? You have high-level
Yes, of
features
course.
regarding the. Maybe it would be a good idea to feed the high-level features to the current neural network. Maybe just before the red triangle or red rectangle, or just after the red rectangle, concatenated features. That could be a good start, maybe.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe something simpler. Why do we need the RNN? I mean, doesn't this work nicely?
No. Because the earthquake signal is a time series signal. It's not data like a picture image, like a sentence. It's it needs to be interpreted. That's not enough to understand.
What is not enough to understand?
Sienna.
Okay.
Does it have something to do with earthquake signals not being the same length or no?
What?
Using RNN, does it have anything to do with the fact that earthquake signals, earthquake recordings, aren't the same length or not?
Yes.
Okay. So maybe you want to rephrase your answer to Erdem Hoca's question.
Yes.
I mean, all of these are connected, right?
Yes.
Okay, well, let me ask you one more thing regarding earthquake. You mentioned that you're going to look into P and S waves. I think this was on your last slide. Yes. Why do we care about P and S waves? Maybe you can, just briefly explain to us what they are.
Until this time, we study maximum energy of spectrograms, and I search literature review, and we saw them. They are study P and S wave.
Okay, so that's my question. Why are they studying P and S wave? Yeah.
P wave and S wave is the earthquake, is the starts of the earthquake, and the maximum magnitude. Actually,
well, no, not they're well, they're kind of related to the magnitude, obviously, but the P wave is the first wave that the accelerometer or the station records. So that's the start of the earthquake, okay? And then the S wave follows. So the time between it takes between the P wave and the S wave actually is very much related to how far you are away from the epicenter of the earthquake. because it's related to travel time and all that kind of stuff. So, so that's why. Just keep in mind. I know it's an earthquake engineering related question, but you know, at the end of the day, if you were to present, I mean, the future, when you present this material, I'm sure a lot of earthquake engineers are going to be interested as well. So, you know, it's good to know this information as well. Okay. Well, okay. I mean, I guess that's it from me, Damuja.
Okay. Okay. Any questions from the audience? İrem and Sanem, do you have any questions? Okay. Okay. We thank Melis then. Thank you, Melis.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Melis.
Okay.